The crystal chandeliers of the Riverside Grand Ballroom cast dancing lights across 500 guests, all dressed in their finest evening wear. My sister Victoria's wedding reception was exactly what she'd always dreamed of: elegant, expensive, and designed to showcase the perfect life she'd built. White roses cascaded from every table centerpiece, a 12-piece orchestra played softly in the corner, and servers in crisp uniforms circulated with champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's monthly rent. I stood near the back of the room in my simple navy dress, the one I'd worn to countless family events because it was versatile and didn't draw attention. That was my strategy with family gatherings lately: blend in, stay quiet, leave early. It had been working reasonably well for the past 3 years. Paya. My mother's voice cut through the gentle music like a knife. She was bearing down on me with Aunt Patricia in tow, both of them wearing expressions I knew too well. The expression that said they were about to enjoy themselves at my expense. Patricia was just asking what you've been up to. I told her you're still working in that warehouse. My aunt's perfectly penciled eyebrows rose with theatrical surprise. Oh my, so, honey, how long has it been now? 5 years. 6, my mother corrected, her tone dripping with disappointment. 6 years in the same entry-level position. We keep hoping she'll finally do something with her life, but... She trailed off with a delicate shrug that somehow conveyed volumes of disapproval. I'm doing fine, Mom, I said quietly, keeping my voice even. The work keeps me busy. Busy. My mother laughed, a sharp sound. Patricia, can you imagine? Victoria is marrying a neurosurgeon, living in that beautiful penthouse downtown, and Maya is busy in a warehouse. At 32 years old. Well, Aunt Patricia said, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that was still perfectly audible. At least she showed up. That's something. Though I did notice she came alone again. No date. Never a date, my mother confirmed. Honestly, at this point we'd settle for any signs of a normal social life. But she just works those long hours in that depressing industrial building and goes home to her tiny apartment. It's like she's given up. I took a slow breath and smiled politely. The apartment suits me just fine. A studio, my mother said to Patricia. In that neighborhood. We offered to help her find something better, but she's so stubborn. Victoria appeared then, resplendent in her custom Vera Wang gown, her new husband Derek at her side. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, exactly as she'd planned. Her eyes landed on me and something flickered across her face. A mix of triumph and disdain. Why, you made it. She kissed the air near my cheeks, careful not to smudge her makeup. I wasn't sure you'd come, what with your work schedule being so demanding. The way she said demanding made it clear she thought my work was anything but. Wouldn't miss your big day, I said genuinely. Despite everything, she was still my sister. How sweet. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. Derek, this is my little sister Maya. The one I told you about. She works in logistics. Warehouse work, my mother clarified helpfully. Loading and unloading, that sort of thing. Derek, to his credit, looked slightly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Nice to meet you, Maya. Congratulations on the wedding. Thank you. He glanced at Victoria. We should probably make our rounds. Oh, just 1 minute, darling. Victoria touched his arm. Maya, I've been meaning to ask. Are you still living in that studio? The one in the warehouse district. I am. God, I don't know how you stand it. Derek and I just finished renovating our place. You should see the master bathroom alone. It's bigger than your entire apartment. She laughed, a tinkling sound. But I suppose you're comfortable there. You've always been comfortable with less. Uncle Robert joined our growing circle, martini in hand. Why, haven't seen you in ages. How's the warehouse treating you? Very well, thank you. Still doing the night shifts? He didn't wait for an answer. You know, if you ever wanted help getting a real career started, I have some connections. Entry-level office work, that sort of thing. Might be a step up from manual labor. That's very kind, I said, but I'm happy with my current work. Victoria laughed again, louder this time. Several nearby guests glanced over. Happy. Maya's happy in her warehouse. Isn't that precious, Derek? Some people just have simple dreams. My cousin James appeared with his wife Kelly. What are we talking about? Maya's career, Victoria said, making air quotes around the word career. We're all very impressed with her dedication to warehouse work. Oh, right. James nodded knowingly. Mom mentioned you were still there. No judgment, Maya. Honest work and all that. Exactly, my mother chimed in. We're not saying there's anything wrong with warehouse work. Someone has to do it. We just wish Maya would show a little more ambition. Try to make something of herself like Victoria has. Kelly tilted her head sympathetically. Have you thought about going back to school? It's never too late. I mean, you'd be older than most of the other students, but... I appreciate the concern, I said, maintaining my calm smile. Really? But I'm quite content. Content. Victoria practically spat the word. That's exactly the problem, isn't it? You're content to be mediocre. Content to let life pass you by while the rest of us actually achieve things. Derek looked increasingly uncomfortable. Victoria, maybe. No, Derek, she needs to hear this. Victoria's eyes flashed. My sister had been drinking champagne steadily since the ceremony, and her filter was disappearing. It's my wedding day and I've been patient with Maya's little act for years now. I'm tired of it. Act? I asked quietly. Yes, act. Victoria's voice was rising, drawing more attention from nearby guests. This whole, I'm perfectly happy being nobody routine. It's pathetic, Maya. You're 32 years old, working a dead-end job, living in a shoebox with no prospects, no relationship, no future. And you stand there smiling like everything is fine. It's not fine. It's sad. The music had faded into the background. At least 50 people were now openly watching our exchange. Victoria, my mother said, but there was no real reproach in her tone. She'd been saying similar things to me in private for years. No, Mom. Someone needs to tell her the truth. Victoria turned back to me, her face flushed. Stop pretending to be successful, Maya. Stop pretending your life is going anywhere. You're an embarrassment to this family, and frankly, I only invited you today because Mom insisted. I didn't want people asking why my sister wasn't here, because explaining that she's a warehouse worker with no life would be even more humiliating. The circle around us had grown. More guests were turning, conversations dying as they sensed drama. You could have been something, Victoria continued. You were always decent at school. But you gave up. You settled. And now look at you, wearing the same dress you wore to Uncle Robert's retirement party 2 years ago, arriving alone, contributing nothing to this family except disappointment. Victoria, that's enough, Derek said firmly, finally finding his voice. It's not enough. My sister was on a roll now, years of superiority and contempt pouring out. I've worked hard for everything I have. I went to medical school. I built a career. I married well. I made something of myself. And Maya? Maya moves boxes in a warehouse. She's a nobody. A complete and utter nobody playing dress-up at my wedding. The ballroom had fallen silent except for Victoria's voice. Even the orchestra had stopped playing. Aunt Patricia touched my arm in what might have been meant as comfort. Honey, maybe you should. Should what? Victoria interrupted. Should leave? Yes, maybe she should. This is a celebration of success, of achievement, of people who've actually made something of their lives. What exactly is Maya celebrating? 6 years of the same job? Living in poverty? Being the family failure? My mother finally stepped in, but her words were measured. Victoria, you're upset. Let's not ruin your special day. I'm not upset, I'm being honest. Someone needs to be honest with her. Victoria pointed at me, her diamond bracelet catching the light. This whole quiet, humble act. It's not fooling anyone, Maya. We all know you're going nowhere. We all know you've achieved nothing. We all know you're still in that warehouse job because you're not capable of anything better. Still in that warehouse job? My mother echoed, turning to me with that familiar look of disappointment. Please tell me you've at least gotten a promotion or something after all this time. I opened my mouth to respond, but Victoria wasn't finished. She probably hasn't even gotten a raise. My sister laughed bitterly. God, Maya, how do you live with yourself? How do you show up to events like this, surrounded by successful people, and not die of shame? James jumped in, perhaps trying to lighten the mood. Come on, Victoria, it's your wedding day. Let's not what? Acknowledge reality. Victoria's voice carried across the entire ballroom now. Every single one of the 500 guests was watching. I'm tired of tiptoeing around Maya's feelings. I'm tired of pretending her life choices are acceptable. They're not. She's wasted her potential, wasted her youth, and for what? To move boxes? To live in squalor. Kelly whispered something to James, but Victoria heard it. What was that, Kelly? I just said, maybe Maya has her reasons for her choices. Reasons? Victoria's laugh was harsh. The only reason is lack of ambition. Lack of drive. Lack of everything that makes a person successful. Look at her, she can't even defend herself. She just stands there with that infuriating calm smile, pretending everything is fine when her entire life is a disaster. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Now, Victoria, your sister did come all this way. All this way? She lives 20 minutes away. In that pathetic studio apartment that probably costs less than my car payment. Victoria's face was red now, her carefully applied makeup beginning to run slightly from the heat of her anger. And you know what the worst part is? She acts like she's above us. Like her simple little life is somehow noble. Like working in a warehouse makes her better than those of us who actually succeeded. I've never said that. I spoke quietly, the first full sentence I'd managed in several minutes. You don't have to say it. Victoria snapped. It's in every polite smile, every deflection, every time you refuse our help or advice. You think you're too good for our suggestions, but look where your pride has gotten you. Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. My father appeared then, working his way through the crowd. He'd been schmoozing with Derek's family across the room. What's going on here? Just having an honest conversation with Maya, Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. About her career. Or lack thereof. Dad sighed. Victoria, it's your wedding. I know it's my wedding, Dad. That's exactly why I don't want to pretend anymore. This is my day, and I don't want it tainted by having to explain to Derek's family why my sister is a warehouse worker who can't even afford a decent dress. Do you know how many people have asked me about her? Do you know how embarrassing it is to say, oh, that's my sister, she moves boxes for a living? Derek grabbed Victoria's arm. That's enough. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Victoria wrenched her arm away. And if everyone else is too polite to say it, then I will. Maya is a failure. She's failed at life, failed at career, failed at everything that matters. And I'm sick of pretending otherwise. The ballroom was utterly silent. 500 people watching one woman publicly destroy her sister on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. I stood there maintaining my composure, that calm smile still on my face. Inside I felt the familiar ache of family rejection, but I'd learned long ago not to show it. Not to react. Not to engage. Nothing to say. Victoria taunted. No defense. No explanation for why you've wasted your entire adult life. I'm happy for you, Victoria, I said softly. Your wedding is beautiful. I hope you and Derek have a wonderful life together. Happy for me? Victoria's voice rose to nearly a shriek. You're happy for me? You should be devastated. You should be looking at what I've accomplished and realizing what a failure you are in comparison. But no, you just stand there with that smile, pretending you're satisfied with your pathetic little life. My mother tried again. Victoria, honey, maybe we should. Should what? Should keep enabling Maya's delusions? Should keep pretending her life isn't a complete disaster? No, Mom. No more. She needs to wake up and realize she's going nowhere, she's achieved nothing, and she's embarrassing all of us. It was at that exact moment, with Victoria's face red, her voice echoing off the ballroom walls, 500 guests watching in frozen silence, that I noticed something. People's phones were lighting up. First just a few, then more, then dozens of glowing screens across the ballroom as notifications began to arrive simultaneously. Uncle Robert glanced at his phone, frowned, then looked at me with sudden confusion. James pulled out his phone, read something, and his face went white. Kelly gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth. All around the ballroom, guests were checking their phones, their faces transforming from curiosity to shock to absolute disbelief. What? Victoria demanded, noticing the sudden shift in attention. What's everyone looking at? Aunt Patricia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, read for a moment, then her eyes went wide. She looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. Oh my God, she whispered. What? Victoria's voice was sharp with irritation. What is it? James turned his phone around, his hand shaking slightly. On the screen was a magazine cover. Forbes magazine. The header read, 40 under 40. The next generation of business titans. And there, front and center in a professional photo I'd sat for 3 months ago was me. The cover text read, Maya Richardson, at 32 the youngest tech billionaire in history. How a quiet genius revolutionized global logistics. Victoria stared at the phone. What is this? It's Maya, James said quietly. It's your sister. More phones came out. People were frantically searching, reading, their faces showing progressive stages of shock. That can't be right, my mother said weakly. That's not. Maya works in a warehouse. Uncle Robert was scrolling through his phone now, his face pale. She owns the warehouse, he said, his voice barely audible. She owns the company. She owns. Jesus Christ, according to this, she owns the entire supply chain. Multiple companies. Across 6 continents. Victoria grabbed Derek's phone, her hands shaking. On the screen was the Forbes article, complete with photos, charts, and a detailed breakdown of my company's explosive growth and my personal net worth. This is a mistake, Victoria said, but her voice had lost its conviction. This has to be a mistake. It's not a mistake, said a voice from behind us. Everyone turned. A distinguished man in his 60s was approaching, flanked by 2 younger men in impeccable suits. I recognized him immediately. Malcolm Foster, editor-in-chief of Forbes. Mr. Foster, I said, surprised. I didn't expect you here. Your assistant mentioned you'd be attending your sister's wedding, he said with a warm smile. I wanted to personally deliver the first physical copy. He held out a magazine. It hits newsstands tomorrow, but the digital edition just went live. Causing quite a stir already, I see. He handed me the magazine. There I was on the cover, professional and confident in a way I never was at family gatherings. The version of myself I was at work, not the quiet daughter and sister who smiled politely through insults. Victoria was staring, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Maya Richardson, Malcolm continued, addressing the room as much as me, founder and CEO of Global Flow Technologies. 6 years ago you started writing logistics algorithms in that warehouse you worked at. The warehouse you now own along with 17 others worldwide. Your software revolutionized supply chain management globally. Current company valuation is $8.7 billion. Personal net worth estimated at $4.2 billion, making you the youngest self-made billionaire in the technology sector. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. The warehouse job, my mother whispered. You were working, I said simply. I was working. I started as a night shift logistics coordinator. I noticed inefficiencies in our systems, so I started writing code to fix them. The algorithms worked. Really worked. I pitched them to the company owner. He gave me a chance to implement them. Within 6 months, our efficiency increased by 340%. Within a year, other companies were asking to license my software. Within 2 years, I'd bought out the original owner and expanded globally. Malcolm nodded enthusiastically. It's one of the most remarkable business stories of the decade. You disrupted a $1 trillion industry while most people didn't even know you existed. We've been trying to get you for a cover story for 2 years. I prefer to keep a low profile, I said. Clearly. Malcolm smiled. But the business world deserves to know the genius behind Global Flow. Your algorithms are running logistics for 40% of Fortune 500 companies. Your innovations have reduced global shipping costs by billions annually. You employ over 15,000 people worldwide. And you did it all before turning 33. Victoria was still staring at the phone, scrolling through article after article that was now flooding the internet. But you live in a studio apartment. I live in a penthouse, I corrected gently. In the building I own. In the warehouse district. I converted the top floor years ago. It's 4,000 square feet with a view of the river. I call it a studio because it's one open space. I like the openness. The warehouse district building, Uncle Robert said slowly. The one they wrote up in Architectural Digest last year? The industrial to luxury conversion. That's my building, I confirmed. James was scrolling frantically through his phone. There's a whole profile here in Tech Quarterly. It says you're notoriously private. You don't do interviews, don't attend industry events, keep your personal life completely separate from your public business persona. I like my privacy, I said simply. My mother's face had gone through several color changes. All this time, all these years we thought. You thought I was a failure, I finished for her. I know. You've mentioned it. Frequently. Aunt Patricia was reading from her phone now. It says here that you've donated over $200 million to education initiatives. You've funded scholarships for over 10,000 students from low-income backgrounds. You've built schools in 12 countries. Education matters, I said. Kelly had found another article. Business Insider says you're one of the most influential tech leaders under 40. They're calling you the quiet revolutionary, because you changed an entire industry without seeking any publicity. Victoria's face had gone from red to white. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Would you have believed me? Every time we talked, you were so convinced I was nobody, going nowhere, achieving nothing. When would have been the right time to bring it up? At Thanksgiving when you were explaining to everyone how I'd wasted my potential? At Dad's birthday when you told me I should be more ambitious? Today when you called me an embarrassment. Derek had stepped away from Victoria slightly, his face showing his mortification. Several of his family members were in the crowd, all of them now staring at Victoria with various expressions of shock and second-hand embarrassment. Malcolm was still standing there, clearly enjoying the drama despite himself. I should mention, he said, that we're not the only ones covering this story. The digital edition is already trending #1 globally. Every major business publication is rushing to put together their own profiles. Maya, your anonymity just ended quite spectacularly. One of the young men with Malcolm stepped forward. Ms. Richardson, I'm Jason Chin from TechCrunch. We met briefly at the Supply Chain Innovation Conference last year. Would you be willing to comment on? Not today, I said politely but firmly. This is my sister's wedding. I'm here as a guest, not as a sue. Victoria laughed, a strange, broken sound. My wedding. Right. My big perfect wedding that I've been planning for 2 years. My moment to shine and show everyone how successful I am. And you're a billionaire. A Forbes cover billionaire. Your wedding is still beautiful, I said, and I meant it. You married someone you love. That matters more than anything in my bank account. Don't, Victoria said sharply. Don't be gracious about this. Don't stand there and pretend this doesn't change everything. It doesn't change anything, I said. I'm the same person I was 10 minutes ago. The same person I've been for the past 6 years. The only thing that's changed is what you know about me. My mother had sat down abruptly in the nearest chair. All those times we tried to help you find a real job. I had a real job. I was building a company. We offered you money, my father said, his voice stunned. We offered to help with your rent. I didn't need help. But thank you for offering. James was still scrolling, reading article after article. It says here that you personally own 87% of Global Flow. That you've never taken outside investment because you wanted to maintain complete control of the company direction. That's correct. The company that's valued at $8.7 billion. The valuation fluctuates, I said. That's just an estimate. Uncle Robert was shaking his head in disbelief. We thought you were too proud to accept help. We thought you were stubborn and foolish. I was focused, I said simply. I had a vision for what I wanted to build and I built it. I didn't need to announce it to everyone. I just needed to do the work. Victoria's carefully planned reception was falling apart around her. Guests who should have been celebrating the newlyweds were instead clustered around phones, reading about me, whispering, pointing. The gossip would spread through their entire social circle by morning. Derek's mother approached, her face apologetic. Maya, I'm Patricia Thornton. Derek's mother. I just want to say, well, it's an honor to meet you. I've read about Global Flow's innovations. My son works in surgical technology, and your logistics systems have revolutionized medical supply chains. You've literally saved lives with your work. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. She glanced at Victoria with barely concealed disappointment. My son married into quite a remarkable family. Victoria's face crumpled. The reality was setting in. Her perfect wedding, her moment to shine, had been completely overshadowed. And worse, she'd spent the past hour publicly humiliating someone who was infinitely more successful than she'd ever be. More guests were approaching now, wanting to introduce themselves, to shake my hand, to tell me about how my innovations had impacted their industries. I was polite but brief with each of them, conscious that this was supposed to be Victoria's day. Malcolm pulled out a business card. Maya, I know you value your privacy, but this story is going to explode. If you need any help managing the media attention, please call me. I can recommend excellent PR firms who specialize in high-profile tech executives. I'll consider it. Thank you. He and his team departed, leaving chaos in their wake. My mother stood slowly, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Maya, we didn't know. All those things we said. You said what you believed to be true, I said. Based on what you could see. I understand. But we should have known, she insisted. We should have asked more questions, paid more attention. Would it have mattered? I asked gently. If I'd told you 3 years ago that I was building a tech company, would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was delusional? She opened her mouth, then closed it, unable to answer. Victoria was crying now, her perfect makeup running in black streaks down her face. Derek tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. How could you do this to me? She demanded, her voice breaking. How could you come here to my wedding and what? I asked calmly. Let you insult me without correcting your assumptions? Victoria, I didn't do anything. Forbes decided to run that cover. The timing was coincidental. I had no idea they'd publish today. You could have told us, she sobbed. You could have told us before, prepared us. So you could what? Treat me differently? That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I wanted to know how you really felt about me. And now I do. The truth of that statement hung in the air between us. Aunt Patricia approached hesitantly. Maya, dear, I hope you can forgive the things we said. We were so wrong about you. You were wrong about my career, I corrected. But you were also right about some things. I do live alone. I don't date much. I don't have a traditional social life. Those things you criticized were accurate. I just didn't think they made me a failure. They don't, she said quickly. Of course they don't. You're brilliant, successful, incredible. I'm the same person I was an hour ago, I repeated. When you all thought I was a nobody. The ballroom was still in chaos. Victoria's perfect reception had devolved into what would undoubtedly become the most talked-about wedding disaster in their social circle's history. Not because of any typical wedding mishap, but because the bride had spent an hour publicly eviscerating her sister, who then turned out to be a billionaire. Derek's father approached, a tall man with kind eyes. Ms. Richardson, I'm Michael Thornton. I apologize for my family witnessing such a difficult moment. For what it's worth, my son is a good man. He'll be good to Victoria. I know, I said. I can tell. She's lucky. I think, he said carefully, that she's realized she's lucky in more ways than she understood before today. Victoria was sitting now, surrounded by bridesmaids who looked torn between comforting her and scrolling through their phones to read more about me. The orchestra had tentatively started playing again, but no one was paying attention. James approached me, his expression sheepish. Maya, I feel like an idiot. All those times I offered to help you find a real job. You were trying to be kind, I said. In your own way. I was being condescending, he corrected. We all were. And you just took it. For years you took it and never said a word. What would have been the point? I asked. You all had made up your minds about who I was. Nothing I said would have changed that. Only evidence would change it. So here we are. My father approached, looking older somehow. Sweetheart, I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Dad. I do, he insisted. Because I've been saying the wrong things for 6 years. Every dinner, every holiday, every family gathering, I've been on your case about making something of yourself. And you'd already made more of yourself than any of us could imagine. I didn't do it to prove anything to you, I said honestly. I did it because I saw a problem and wanted to solve it. The success was almost incidental. He laughed weakly. Almost incidental. A multi-billion-dollar company, almost incidental. Kelly was reading from her phone again. There's a whole thread on Reddit analyzing how you managed to stay anonymous for so long. People are calling it the greatest example of stealth wealth in modern history. I wasn't being stealthy, I said. I was being private. There's a difference. Victoria had stopped crying and was just sitting there staring at nothing. Her beautiful wedding day ruined. Her moment of triumph. destroyed by the revelation that her failure sister was actually more successful than she'd ever dreamed of being. I felt a pang of sympathy for her despite everything. She'd worked hard for her success. Medical school was brutal. Building a career as a physician was demanding. Marrying Derek was genuinely a happy achievement. He was a good man who clearly loved her. She had legitimate things to be proud of. But she'd built her self-worth partially on the foundation of being better than me. And that foundation had just disintegrated. I walked over to where she sat, ignoring the whispers and stares from 500 guests. "Victoria," I said quietly. She looked up at me, her face ravaged by tears and ruined makeup. "Your wedding is beautiful," I said. "Derek seems wonderful. You've built a good life. Those things are real and they matter. What I do for a living doesn't change what you've accomplished." "Doesn't it?" she whispered. "How can I face anyone after this? After what I said, after how I treated you, and now everyone knows that I'm what? Successful?" "Victoria, we're both successful. In different ways." "You're a billionaire," she said flatly. "You're on the cover of Forbes. You've revolutionized an entire industry. I'm a doctor who married well. There's no comparison." "You save lives," I countered. "I move packages more efficiently. If we're measuring actual value to humanity, you win." She laughed bitterly. "Don't patronize me. I'm not." I crouched down to her eye level. "Victoria, you're a good doctor. You help people every day. That matters. It matters more than logistics, algorithms, and profit margins. I genuinely mean that." "Then why didn't you tell us?" She grabbed my hand desperately. "Why did you let us think you were nothing? Why did you let us treat you like a failure?" I finished. "Because I wanted to see who you all really were. Who you were when you thought I had nothing to offer you. And now I know." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I stood up. "Enjoy the rest of your reception, Victoria. I'm going to leave now. I think my presence is causing too much disruption." "Maya, wait." My mother stood, reaching for me. "I'll call you later, Mom," I said. "We can talk when emotions aren't running so high." I walked toward the exit and the crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. 500 people watching the warehouse worker, the billionaire, leave her sister's wedding. As I reached the door, Derek caught up to me. "Maya, please. Don't leave like this. Victoria is devastated." "She didn't mean." "She meant every word," I said gently. "And that's okay. That's who she is. Who you all are. I'm not angry about it. I'm just done pretending we're closer than we actually are. She's your sister. I know. And she thinks I'm an embarrassment to the family. You heard her say it. Multiple times. To hundreds of witnesses." He had no response to that. "Derek, you seem like a good man. Take care of her. Help her understand that her worth isn't dependent on comparing herself to others. She'll be happier that way." I left before he could respond. Outside, my driver was waiting with my car. A Tesla Model S, understated and practical. Definitely not a warehouse worker's car, but none of my family had ever seen it. "How was the wedding, Ms. Richardson?" Marcus asked as I slid into the back seat. "Educational," I said. "Very educational." My phone was already blowing up with notifications. Messages from colleagues, business partners, investors, all reacting to the Forbes cover. Requests for interviews from every major media outlet. Invitations to speak at conferences, appear on talk shows, attend galas and fundraisers. My quiet anonymity was gone, shattered by one magazine cover and spectacularly bad timing. I opened my laptop and started reviewing the quarterly reports that needed my attention. The work didn't stop just because my family had a revelation. Global Flow had operations across 6 continents, thousands of employees depending on my leadership, and innovations in development that would reshape the industry even further. That was real. That mattered. That was what I'd built while my family thought I was moving boxes. My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. "Ms. Richardson? This is Catherine Walsh from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you on the show tomorrow to discuss the Forbes cover and your incredible success story. We're prepared to offer." "I'm not interested, thank you," I said politely and hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Another media outlet. I sent it to voicemail. Then a text from my assistant, Sarah. "The Forbes article has been shared 2.3 million times in the past hour. Your private social media accounts have been identified. Multiple news crews are outside your building. Security is handling it but wanted you to know. I sighed. This was going to be complicated. Another text, this one from Victoria. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please call me. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment, then put my phone face down on the seat beside me. Marcus glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Rough day, boss. You could say that. For what it's worth, he said, they're idiots for not seeing what was right in front of them all along. I smiled despite everything. Thanks, Marcus. Home. Yes. Home. As we drove through the city toward the warehouse district, toward my building, my penthouse, my quiet life that was about to become significantly less quiet, I thought about the past 6 years. The long nights coding in that warehouse. The meetings with venture capitalists who underestimated me. The slow, steady building of something real and lasting and valuable. I'd done it all while my family thought I was going nowhere. While they pitted me, criticized me, offered me unwanted help and unsolicited advice. And now they knew. Now everyone knew. Whether that was a good thing or a terrible thing remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Victoria. Please. Maya. I need to talk to you. I need to explain. I picked up the phone and typed a response. There's nothing to explain. You told me exactly what you think of me. I believe you. Take care of yourself, Victoria. Congratulations on your marriage. I hit send and turned off my phone. Tomorrow I'd deal with the media storm. Tomorrow I'd figure out how to maintain any semblance of privacy. Tomorrow I'd decide what to do about my family and their sudden change of heart. But tonight I was just going to go home, pour myself a glass of wine, and stand on my balcony overlooking the warehouse district I'd transformed from an industrial wasteland into one of the city's most innovative business hubs. Tonight I was going to appreciate the quiet before the storm. Because the quiet, the ability to work without scrutiny, to build without attention, to live without judgment, that was what I was really going to miss. The Forbes cover had given me recognition, validation, public acknowledgement of what I'd built. But it had cost me something too. It had cost me my anonymity, my privacy, my ability to attend family weddings without causing a scene. And I wasn't sure the trade was worth it. But that's the thing about success. Real success, the kind that changes industries and impacts millions of lives. Eventually it refuses to stay hidden. Eventually it demands to be acknowledged. Even if you'd prefer it to stay quiet. Even if you'd rather just keep moving boxes.